Jordan Sumbu on Twitter tweeted a thread. And the first one he said, "Please stop glorifying black women and girls as strong race soldiers and fixers for black communities, and particularly for black men. The most disrespected, unprotected, and neglected group should not be at the front lines. It further dehumanizes them. Listen to black women on this." Okay, hold on. I'm going to refer him to Professor T. Hassan Johnson, who on YouTube has a series called The Onyx Report, dealing specifically with marginalization of black males in their childhood and adulthood. And Tommy Curry, who deals with the psychological effects of the stereotypes of black boys. And both of them have dealt with the issue of the sexual abuse of black boys, which is not largely covered, not widely publicized, and therefore really not known, even by black boys themselves. They don't necessarily know the extent to which other black boys are also sexually abused in childhood. And so while black boys and black girls are being abused, black boys, each one thinks he's the only one. Because this is what society's telling them. Oh, nothing's happening to y'all. He goes on and he says, "It further strips them of their womanhood and femininity in a society that already does. Be careful about what imagery you project and the message you send. In the very patriarchal society we live in, men protect women, but black women protect men and everyone else." Hold on. Patriarchal society we live in. Black America is not a patriarchy at all. It's a matriarchy. It's a gynocracy. The women run the show. And the image that is being sent out unjustly, but it is also being co-opted by a lot of these matriarchs and gynocrats. I'm strong, I'm independent, I don't need no man. So when they are in control and they're in charge and then they say this, we men being raised by them think that it's true. How are we supposed to know that they're lying the whole time, even to themselves, and that they can't wait for the men to come along and take over certain things? But they're not ready to give up control. So again, what we're being told is you have accountability, but you don't have power. Don't seek after power, just take accountability for what goes wrong when somebody else that is in power makes the wrong decisions. That's the absolute nightmare. If we're not allowed to ask women to accept that, then why should we? Another thing too, this is a myth that black men don't protect black women. However, what's not a myth is that we men have grown up hearing from before we were even men what black women don't owe us or what women don't owe us in general. I mean, Western men in general, black and white, have grown up hearing women don't owe you anything. And that's usually in reference to sex, but it includes everything else. Women owe you nothing. So then why do we owe protection? I mean, how to explain that? Straight up. Now, if my mother owes me some protection and she owes me looking after when I'm young, then I owe her protection and I would do it. These are relatives we're talking about. Same for aunts, cousins, my daughters, certainly. But if you're going to tell me that if a woman does not know me, and if she does know me, she doesn't owe me, but I owe her protection. If we don't owe each other, we don't owe each other, period. It doesn't work like that. There's quid pro quo, but there's no, until I borrow something and don't pay it, or steal something and don't return it, there is no I owe, but she does not owe anything. That doesn't work. Same for you, gentlemen. Don't fall for this mess. If you owe, maybe you do owe protection. That means something must be owed in exchange. Now, I'm not going to limit that something to sex. Others may, I'm not going to. But what I'm saying is that when you were told that you were owed nothing, usually that was in reference to principally sex, secondarily other things. You decide what is owed in exchange. It's up to you from whatever y'all can negotiate. The point is, There is no you owe, but no one owes you anything. And that's what you're being told, subconsciously. The next thing Jordan Sumbu says is, the support and glorification of black women is also very one-dimensional and mostly focuses on what they can do for men and everyone else. It's a support that isn't reciprocated over some of the social issues that affects them, like misogynoir, sexism, and colorism. Okay, let me dissect this BS too. While it is true that oftentimes we overrate strength and resilience, these are still commendable traits in men or women, but maybe we focus on them too much. However, he says that the support is not reciprocated. Oh, no. He's over here reciprocating the support himself. Let me tell you what's not reciprocated. There is misogynoir. There's also black misandry, which in Greek would be called misandry mavros. Both of these exist. Now, I'm not willing to sit up here and bash the black woman. I'm just not willing to sit up here and act like only they get bashed and I never do. No, they just take turns on both of us. However, when it comes down to being at the forefront of these protests, let's not act like white men are going to react the exact same way to mostly black women protesting as they would to mostly black men protesting. That ain't how that works. They'll shoot both of us, kill both of us. Ask Sandra Bland. But in general, they're not necessarily going to treat black men with kid gloves either. They're not looking and saying, "Where's the black woman? I just want to shoot her and beat her, and then I'll go to the guy if he's left." No, it's not the way that works. What I'm seeing is they'll slam and brutalize either one of us. That's what I'm seeing. But they do treat black men like more of a threat. I usually see this in the job market. When a black woman is rightfully angry, they'll tell her, "You the angry black woman, why don't you shut up?" When a black man is rightfully angry, security, if he raises his voice, then they'll tell him the same gaslighting stuff when he's behind bars and in handcuffs. If you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, they'll do that. But when he raises his voice, security, that's how they do it. While they may be willing to argue with a black woman if all she's doing is arguing, black man argues, put your hands behind your back. That's how they do it. So I'm not going to sit up here and act like, physically speaking, they treat us the same. I know in education, black female teachers can get away with more, physically speaking, than a black male teacher can. And I guess there's a reason for it. But by the same token, if they can do that, I'm not going to let them come to me and say, "Well, you just didn't do as well in controlling your classroom as she did." Well, that's because she was allowed to twist his ears and drag him out the room. I do it, the kid's going to react, and all of y'all are going to jump on me too. That's the difference. But then he says sexism and colorism. Let me tackle this colorism right quick. I'm going to be honest about it. When the ladies do want to discuss colorism, they're talking about not being validated and pursued. That's what they're talking about. Well, they don't want most of the men they see anyway, so why do they want most of the men to validate and pursue them? They say it's unfair that their so-called mating market value, whether that's romantic, sexual, or marriage market, altogether you could call them the mate market value or mating market. Okay, so they're upset that that so-called mating market value, if you will, is artificially lowered by European beauty standards. Guess what? The same goes for men. What if you are a black man that is an excellent reader? I don't have to tell you how you're judged at that point. What if you are a black man, even if you're in shape, but you just didn't play any particular sport, you were just in shape? How are you then viewed? What I'm saying is that when it comes down to it, if you are short, if you are too light, if you simply don't drive an impressive car around, you know how harshly you're viewed, men. And it's childish, but you're viewed this way even in adulthood. But in reality, most black men, even when they say they like them light bright, they still date those that they did not say that they preferred. The same does not hold true for sisters. So if it's only going to be about dating and mating, well then no, it's still a hell of a lot harder for black men than it is for black women. Now, if we're going to talk about other issues of colorism beyond dating and mating, I don't know. What I do know is that in black America, we don't go easy on any complexion at all. So let's not act like it's one-sided. That's already across genders and shades. That's already been bi-directional. Last thing he says, we mostly praise black women for how much abuse they can endure, strength, and how much emotional labor they can provide for us. That alone is dehumanizing. Think about what you're contributing to, and please listen to black women on this. You are causing harm. Protect black women. Like I said, number one, black men are willing to protect black women in many cases. We're the ones being told what we're not owed no matter what we do. Secondly, I don't necessarily hear black men only praising women for their resilience. I hear them praising them for resilience among other things. But in all honesty, the ones I hear promoting resilience and being patient with suffering is not only black women, but specifically church-going black women. They're the ones that largely are responsible for that rhetoric. If I tell a man, I am sick and tired of working this hard to be this poor, and I'm going to stop working hard until there's a reward for me working hard, chances are they'll say, well, you're going to have to work, but yeah, man, you know what? I can't knock it. Old niggas might come along and say to me, just get a job, just any job. You just got to find a job. They don't want to hear that. I want to look at the work to reward ratio. They don't want to hear that stuff. But among our age group, I don't hear everybody saying, be strong and resilient and suffer, and your virtue is in your suffering. I don't hear anyone saying that except for specifically the church-going women and the ones who repeat whatever they say. Now, pastors might do this. But outside of pastors, I don't hear black men talking like that. There's virtue in your suffering. No. Mm-mm. There's a reason why them pews are filled up with women anyway. They're the ones that'll turn around and say this. So ladies, when you hear this, stop and think, when's the last time a man told you that you should suffer just for the virtue of suffering? If he did say that, chances are he was so unattractive to you, you wouldn't listen to him anyway. And I wouldn't blame you. Old corny sounding niggas. I'm with you on that. But let's be honest. A lot of this stuff is as much as I'm willing to defend black women, a lot of this stuff is BS, and I'm calling it. The black man's willingness to defend women who need it, when we're around and aware of it, mind you, does not mean that we should be willing to listen to the BS propaganda. We are not the enemy, and we never were. Thanks for listening.